picture of this dress. There's a lot of circles going on here. So, and the one that I have on the board, I must have redrawn 3 or 4 times. I drew it and I went back with an eraser. So what I'm doing is I'm starting by putting a curve along that angled line that I drew. And I'm not using all of it, I'm just using a part of it. And then I'm going to veer away. And then I'm going to put a curve starting at that squared off line. And then I'm going to draw for a little bit and then look at it and figure out a way to blend them in a way that I'm happy with. So this is just by eye. There's no real formula here for getting this gentle curve. So I would, look at it and maybe I want that a little more shallow and move your curves around. So trying different curves helps. Why working in pencil is nice. I can kind of keep drawing until I like that part of the line there and that part of the line there, and before I forget, let me erase the part I don't like. Okay, until you get a curve that you're generally happy with. But you want it smooth and you don't want it super bulgy in any particular area. Okay?
Does it make, sorry, you might have said this, does it need to be squared?
I put a square at the side seam just so I don't have to worry about folding over there.
Okay.
Because I don't think it especially matters. I just want the angle up here to mimic the angle happening up here. So once I have a line I'm happy with, and notice here yes, this meets at 12 inches at the center back seam. I'm actually extending that angle all the way into the seam allowance. It's going to be a whole lot easier for me to sew if it's a continuous straight line. Somebody asked me about order of operations for sewing this dress. Normally if I chop up a full piece, I like to sew that whole piece back together again before I attach it to other things. So imagine if I'm cutting this off now, I will want to attach it back on, and I want, yes, there will be added fullness, but I want the edges to remain looking like this original thing. So I found it's easier to sew this if the angle continues. The one difference I'm going to say is don't sew on this top triangular piece yet. You'll notice the fit sample that I started doesn't have the triangular piece in there. I'm actually going to attach that to the bodice first, because this piece is the piece that the flounce gets, the peplum flounce gets sandwiched in between. So I would absolutely put the godet in, and I would absolutely put this ruffle on, this flounce ruffle. And if any of you want to make this fit sample, it's a really nice sewing exercise because there's a lot of opposing corners and opposing curves, and some of you maybe have only done that once in 1A, and this is a nice application of how to sew an opposing corner into an opposing corner, and how to sew an opposing curve back to an opposing curve, and I can show you some of those things as well. Okay, so this piece just needs to be put on brown paper. That's this little middle piece. Okay, we need to add seam allowance. Now we know this seam allowance was pressed up, so this one gets pressed up too. So I didn't need to fold it at all. Okay, if I looked at the dress, I noticed that this seam gets pressed down, and so does that one. So I didn't need to fold this piece at all. It's just going to live in the most obvious direction. So if this top piece I'm going to fold before I cut, this bottom piece I'm going to fold before I cut. This middle piece I don't have to do anything but add seam allowance along my cut lines. Okay, so that's that guy. This, they're all going to be on center back. All along the center back, like the original that we cut up. We're just cutting it up and leaving the grain line where it belongs. So now we've got this piece. On our godet, we folded it into fourths and chopped it up. This one, I would, since it's a much bigger piece, I had success folding this into eighths so that I could have more control with the curve at the bottom. Now, it's kind of a strange shape, and I had some trouble folding it into eighths. before. So what I'm actually going to care about is I'm going to fold the top portion into eighths so I can evenly divide that. And then I'm going to square lines to the hem at each of those 8 locations. I'm sure there are probably other ways to do it. Maybe I could fold it into eighths. No, not really, because if I folded it into eighths here, it goes up into this other part that I don't want to put. I don't want to put flare at the center back.
So that is not including the seam allowance.
Not including the seam allowance. So if you need to, you can put a 1/2 inch mark here on the side seam. I already have a 1/2 inch mark here at my center back. So I'm going to fold those 2 1/2 inch marks together. This is along the top edge. And it doesn't need to be perfect. You know, it all gets blended out anyway. So I've got my halfway point. If I put my halfway point to my halfway point, and then I do that again. And I usually mark where they are after I fold them because they flatten out usually before my eye can see. Then I'll do that again. This 1/2 inch mark to that halfway point. And why 8? I don't know. It's easy for me to fold. Really, you could just slash whatever. This is just a nice tool to get increase sweep. Okay, so I've got my little 8 sections. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If I slash this, what happens is I would have 7 areas to add in fullness, which works out great with this one because I have 7 areas there. And if I want the same addition in the front and the back, that's great for me. So I could do the same thing now. I could fold the bottom and find eighths. Maybe I'll do that. I like that idea. I didn't do that last time, but I think this might be easier. So I'm going to fold the bottom into eighths. Yeah, I like that idea. We'll see if it works for us. And then we'll connect the 2 tick marks. Absolutely. Let's see if it works. Maybe we'll get some weird stuff. I haven't tried this yet. Seems like it would make sense. Oh, you know what? Maybe not.
But
It's
then
not
you'd
gonna
have
work.
to add
It's not gonna work.
the
Yeah, so what's happening is this guy is really narrow and this guy is really wide and we're going to get strained. You know, let's try it. Let's try it. Let's work it out and then you can see which one works better for you. Okay, so I'm going to connect these marks. And honestly, we're not sewing on any of these lines. This is just a way to add fullness. It should work fine. Now that I think about it.
That's the center of the 3/4 inch.
Almost. We'll spread 3/4 inch between each one. So what I had done before, the difference between this one and the one that's up on the board, what I had done is I connected my top marks to the hem wherever it was squared. So for instance, I took this top mark and I put my ruler and pivoted until I found a square and then I connected it. But I'm going to try this other way where I'm folding it into eighths. We'll see how it works. I bet both will work fine. We just need 8 little pieces to wiggle around. Usually we're doing this on very symmetrical pieces so it's more obvious, but this one's a little different. Okay. Yeah, this is going to work fine. So same thing as the godet. We're going to slash along these slash lines.